Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Fargo Johnson. I'm with Connecticut Resource Conservation and Development. Thank you for joining us this evening for this Farmer Veteran webinar. We began the Connecticut Veteran Grown Program, which is a 3-year-long program designed to provide services and assistance to farmers in our state with both marketing and business resources to help them succeed. This program is funded tonight through a grant that we received through the U.S. Small Business Administration and is administered by our organization, Connecticut RC&D, in partnership with both Connecticut Department of Agriculture as well as the Connecticut chapter of Farmer Veteran Coalition. And we have with us our marketing consultants, Miranda Creative, tonight to provide this webinar to you. So enjoy.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, I'm Sarah Gibbons with Miranda Creative. We have with us Greg Boyd tonight, who's going to be doing the presentation. He's our Director of Digital, deep knowledge base in this area. So just a reminder, please put yourself on mute and turn your camera off. Any questions can be dropped in the chat box, and I'll be monitoring that through the course of the presentation. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. All right, Greg, here you go.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for the introduction. There is a lot on our agenda this evening. I was given some topics to cover, and I'm going to do my best to cover them all. Some of these things I might gloss over rather quickly. I think each one of these items that we're going to be looking at tonight could be an hour long or a day long session. So by all means, we are skirting the treetops here. We're not necessarily going to be getting down and dirty, but please enter your questions into the chat box as we move forward. And if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to address them, or we can do a deep dive in the Q&A session after. I'm on no hard deadline here. I do recognize that we're recording this, so I want to be cognizant of that time. But other than that, we will do our best to make sure that you guys get the most value out of this experience. So, all right, here we go. So who am I? I work with Miranda Creative out of Norwich, Connecticut. And I'm a transplant here from upstate New York. So my background, actually, I came from a very small town, lots of cows, lots of chickens. My grandmother lived across from Farm Supply. I am very, very aware of the agricultural lifestyle and everything that's involved in the hard work that everyone does. So that's where I grew up. And yeah, it says New York and everybody thinks, New York City, but no, I was way, way upstate, way upstate. So I have a good handle on what we're talking about tonight as well. But I did focus on digital, and I work in many different areas within our organization. So I'm happy to be here tonight and working with you. So without further ado, I'm going to be looking at some best practices. I want to make sure that your farm and your operations are hitting the goalposts that you need to hit. I'm going to talk about some changes and things that have happened in the agriculture space on digital. We want to talk about how we can improve your website and how you can look at your website to know where you need to make some adjustments if necessary. Some tools and tactics for search engine optimization. We'll take some look at some social media options for you, a quick overview of some e-commerce options, and then of course tracking. You want to know how you've been performing and how you can improve with some actual data, and then we'll have a QA session afterwards. So our best practices, we've got a good list here. Obviously not exhaustive, but these will get you started. I recognize a couple names here, and I just pulled up your sites real quick, and I see that most of our audience here is pretty advanced, and I'm pleased to see that. So that's great, and I'll kind of try to speak to some of these topics specifically for you. But for a lot of the people and your colleagues, they might be challenged by this digital space. I know it's not easy to be on top of everything. I struggle in the digital space too, and that's my job. So it's always changing. It's always a moving target. And I know that you guys are typically focused on raising your crops, raising your produce, and getting things to market. So digital might not be your focus. And if you've got friends or engage with a marketing agency such as ours, you're probably in good hands. But if you're doing this on your own, it can be a little intimidating. So this is somewhat geared towards that group, but we'll hit some good points as we move forward. So here we go. I'm going to start with high quality visuals. That's always my best practice for getting started because, you know, images and the way that you look when someone hits your site are very important. You want to showcase what you're selling, whether it's Christmas trees, quail, beef, cattle, you know, whatever it is, you want to make sure you're representing it in the best possible quality. So it's very easy to do comparatively to, you know, years ago. I'm a little bit older here at 45. So I remember a time when there was no internet. And, you know, when we started looking at photos online back in the 90s and then into the 2000s, they were really small. And now we've got wonderful opportunity with bandwidth to show really high quality images. The downside of that is, yes, we have better bandwidth and most people have nice connectivity, but it does make your website slower. And that's a very big and specific signal to Google about how to rank your site. So you want to make sure your site's fast. And one of the ways you can do that is to optimize your images. So you want to use great images. You want to use ones that are impactful, but at the same time, make sure that you've optimized them using some software, whether it's Photoshop. There's plenty of online tools to do that as well, to kind of get the file size down before you upload it into your website. There are wonderful tools to do that, like I mentioned. And, you know, if you have access to a camera, a DSLR camera, you have a friend who's got a little bit of a shutterbug, you know, way about them, and they're pretty good with the camera, much better results doing that than using a phone. Even the best phones nowadays are pretty good, but the DSLR camera, the way that the lens gives you the best option, the best resolution and the best look is something that I always recommend doing, is going with a photographer or someone that knows their way around the camera. Beyond that, you want to make sure that you're hitting the main points for your content, and including your history, your sustainability, your practices, and what you actually are selling or promoting. Once in a while, this can be omitted, and you kind of get lost in what should I be saying about my farm. And it's specifically, you know, people are there for specific things. You want to cater to that and not get too lost with other aspects of it. So that well-written content is essential. I won't get into AI today, but there are wonderful tools now that can help with the writing. There are wonderful tools that can help with video and video editing. And video content right now, in my opinion, is a tremendous opportunity for anyone. Beyond YouTube, the putting video and immersing, having an immersive kind of look to your site where people can experience, whether it's a farm tour, your product, or what you're working on promoting, is, you know, that old adage that you know, images speak 1,000 words, and video is well beyond that, right? So you can say a lot with a little bit of video, and that's something that is under leveraged right now by a lot of people, and I think is a great opportunity, if you're not into that space, to start working on it. Because if you think about all of the other places you can use video, whether it's on social media, your website, and other marketing materials, it's well worth it. You want to make sure that when you're writing stuff and you have listings, that those descriptions have the details that your consumers are going to be looking for. You don't want to overlook things like prices and availability, and, you know, give a good idea of why your product is superior. I think for a lot of folks now who are health conscious, that allergens are a big deal for folks and families who are looking for products. And so, you know, beyond the basics, you know, talking about either the nutritional value or the allergens that may be impacted by your product is important. That can make or break someone visiting your facility, right? And then you want to think about what makes it unique and stand out from everybody else who's selling X, Y, and Z, right? So if you've got a chicken farm and your poultry, you want to make sure that what sets your setup apart, you know, even if it's just the location, you know, your hills, your water sources, things like that might be that angle that you're looking for to set you apart and to drive traffic, whether, you know, it's wholesale buyers or it's local restaurants and such. You know, that opportunity to tell your stories is key there. And you have to be complete, and that's something that's very important. The seasonal updates are also, I think, a great aspect of a website that gets overlooked sometimes. You know, regularly updating your site, whether it's fall focused, right? You know, in the fall, if you get into spring and summer, have, you know, more vibrant, colorful images to use. Talking about, you know, the seasonality of your operation. I'm sure, you especially if you're a grower, you have those different periods and you want to capture those and highlight those. That's a really great way to keep your site rather fresh. And when people come back, they see something new. Also fresh content. I'm just using content in air quotes here. Google really appreciates new content, fresh content. So always updating your images and the pieces of written word or video that go with them is important. And it's also good to think ahead and get that stock. Like right now, we just had some snow here in Connecticut. Get out there and get some snow photos. You might not need them now. We're going into the spring, but next November, December, you want to have those on your site to kind of indicate where you're at, especially if you're again like a tree farm or some other kind of outdoor product. So what do people want? They're looking for a couple things, and educational resources are one of them. They build the credibility and the trust that you're looking for, and set you again. But you're looking for ways to differentiate your operation from whatever else is an opportunity out there for whether again for buyers or for people if you're doing a tourism type situation, or even partnering with if you're selling things to partner where you could do tours or do an experience with a hotel, for instance. You want to make sure that you have credibility. And when those potential business partners and guests are looking at your site, they can say, wow, these guys have it together. This looks amazing. It looks clean, or whatever the aspects are that you're going for. Those are important. And if you look ahead, making a content calendar is really key. That's something, I think as a marketing professional, we always are looking to do, is getting ahead of things, having time to distill what the messages are, writing really well, having people edit our work, making sure someone who is a good writer has looked at what you've written and said, yeah, that makes sense, or I could change this and change that to be more effective. Another great way to come up with content, if you're struggling to say, if you've got a pretty basic operation going in, what do I have to say? Google Trends is another great platform. It's trends.google.com. And that offers you an ability to put in some keywords or some things that might be trending, and see where people are searching for that most frequently. So, if I'm a honey farmer, and I've got my colony, my bees are going, and I want to know when are people shopping for honey, you can put in honey and it'll show you over time what that index looks like. So you would know that in spring, people are kind of thinking about fresh honey, and that might be a time when you want to make sure that you have your site updated with this year's newest information. Another good best practice is to incorporate, if you can't bring these reviews and testimonies into your site, having links to your Google business profile or other platforms that have those things is kind of important. That way people can, and again, build that credibility. They understand that you have a solid operation that they want to engage with. And if you are engaging with reviews, I think, Facebook has reviews. And if you see something negative on there, you want to take that offline, never really want to engage in that space and go back and forth. That's kind of leads to a road where you're going to, you don't have a lot of upside to that. You want to take that offline and say, we see what you're saying. Let's talk. We'll send me an email and we'll talk about it. And if there's positive things, copy and paste those and put them into tweets and your Facebook organic content and on your site so you can amplify that. That's always a great way to get content moving in the right direction as well. Other things that are helpful are, if you've got a big operation, you can have some tours and put maps on there, recipe ideas, things that'll pull people in that are beyond, just stating the obvious about your business. Think about what makes a better experience for someone who might, you want to encourage the visitors that come to your website to come to your actual location, right? I like the idea of having evergreen content that is always available to you, that'll play at any time. So, taking something that you can, if recipe ideas, for the holidays, everyone's looking for holiday cookies or what ingredients are the best for holiday cooking. That idea also works for, in the springtime, or wintertime soups and things like, what ingredients might you offer that would be part of that seasonal trend again. And those can be used year after year as well. There's even things like countdowns, 15 days till spring. Are you ready for, the growing season? This year we've got beets and radishes and whatever's coming up, right? And building up that that, you know, seems simple, but making something out of those things that you think are simple can actually be really compelling. Definitely coming down on something. Sorry. You want to get a conduit for support and contact. There may be someone who's, you know, wants to visit. There may be uh, an opportunity to sell to a retail establishment beyond what you're already doing. So you want to make sure that there's ways for those contacts to happen easily. One thing I've been noticing lately with across all not platforms, but all business styles, you know, whether you're selling something in a store or you're an agricultural business, is having that two-way messaging and that chat support available. There are definitely programs that allow you to do that, but an easy way to pull that into your current environment, you most likely already have a Facebook profile. Turning Messenger onto your Facebook page and integrating that into your website is a pretty easy way, because Messenger is ubiquitous. In most cases, someone will have Messenger on their phone. You'll get a message about someone might be planning a visit or looking for information about a wholesale price, or just whatever it may be. That opportunity is pretty big, and I'm seeing a lot of engagement there, and that's been a successful vehicle for many small businesses. If you're not optimized for a mobile device, you're missing out big time. I don't think I need to belabor this point. Everybody knows that most traffic now on a normal website is about 80% mobile based. So if your phone doesn't display your website, if you've got to pinch and zoom and it's not going well, you've got a really big barrier for someone to think of you in a professional light and want to move forward with you in whatever capacity. So that's important. There's a lot of technical things to consider there, but we all know how crappy it is to try to be doing something on a mobile device and not be able to do that. So don't think about this as just your desktop. You want to make sure your mobile device is very useful on your website as well. And finally, you know, having outreach and extensive community, working within your town government, you know, working to host events and workshops is wonderful. And the reason that ties into your website or driving traffic to your website is those events that are happening around you, or if you create them yourself. Facebook events are a little bit hidden these days, but if you create them and interact with them and use them, the event data is pushed to Google from Facebook, and it shows up very well placed on a Google search engine result. Very often overlooked and very easy to do. So creating events for things that are happening on the farm, the pumpkin patch is opening, whatever it is, making a Facebook event is a great way to get ahead of your competition there, or at least grow your own visibility. I know, you know, in this community, it might not be a competition thing, it's just visibility and getting things happening for you in a good light. So that's a great opportunity there. So let me see. Yeah, we got to keep moving here. Significant changes in the digital marketing for agriculture. So I thought about this a little bit. Many of these play across all channels, but in general, here are the main things that we need to make sure that you're aware of and you need to look at adopting. You know, obviously social media is changing frequently and rapidly, but you don't want to lose sight of the core opportunities that presents. We have influencer marketing. We have video. Again, we're gonna fall back on video quite a bit. There's a lot there that you can enhance your farm with. Analytics has been changing rapidly. We have to pay attention to that. Content marketing, the way that works or versus doesn't work anymore, that is also changing. And you'll see here, we've got a consumer focus on sustainability and transparency of your business. E-commerce has very low barriers now. So if you want to sell that honey or sell your goods online, there's not a lot of friction there to get that done. And of course, search engine optimization has become much more important because that's a much more competitive space. And the cost of Google advertising, for instance, CPC advertising, which was never cheap, but now everybody's jumping on that bandwagon, and it's becoming more expensive to do. So SEO is a less costly way to go. So here we go. Social media, focus on what you can manage. I think that there's a common mistake where people try to get on every platform just because they hear about it. But if you've got Facebook going and you've got a good following, a few thousand followers on your organization, stick with that, and then, work on branching out as time allows. I think Twitter/X is a very low easy thing to do. You can cross post, and the same thing you post on Facebook, you could put on Twitter. I think that platform though is looking for more of an engagement and conversation piece. So if you post there, it's best practice to follow up and make sure anybody commenting, you're commenting back and start that dialogue. The same applies to Facebook, but Twitter or X was a much more dynamic platform. Instagram, obviously everything's got to be photo based there. Not a big fan of putting words. And there's reels, again, the video piece. If you have short videos or videos of your farm, doing those on your phone, important to do, and getting those on Facebook and Instagram. Using video content is pretty key there. And that, if you've got it, try out TikTok, as the last level there. And again, at the business level, that's really your, if we call it business to consumer. But if you're talking, you want to go business to business and looking for wholesalers, looking for restaurants, LinkedIn might be a better place where you're the thought leader for whatever your vertical is. If you're doing, farms and, vegetables and fruits, you want to probably get on LinkedIn and find buyers and find ways to connect with restaurants. And that's a great platform for that. So they kind of have their own niche. But I would absolutely recommend picking one and doing it well, and then expanding first. Don't try to do everything at once. And my recommended order is right there. Facebook and Instagram are kind of one and the same. Then TikTok, after the Twitter, and LinkedIn finally. Influencer marketing is another interesting thing that we're seeing a lot more development over. You have sponsorships now. You can cross post. You can post with other leaders who have, so basically the idea is to take someone with hundreds or thousands of followers, have them expose your brand to their followers, and it grows from there without really paying a lot of money or making it overtly clear that you're advertising. So you want to find someone who represents what your core beliefs and values are, and work with them to have them kind of augment and amplify your own brand. When you're doing this, I think it's important to remember why we go on the social media platforms. It's for entertainment. Not necessarily, I'm not going on there to look at, what's going on with whatever it is. Honey comes to example. I'm not going on to shop for honey. I'm going on there to, be entertained essentially. And if your honey post has entertaining value to it, I'm going to stick around and engage with that versus just, stock standard photos of whatever the product is. So work with a way to make them playful and make them entertaining to people. And I'm using that in a higher sense, not necessarily I'm looking for a comedy, but I could see, some really creative and fun things coming out of that space. And you just want to be authentic as you're doing this. You don't want to get caught where you're, clearly not doing something that's on the up and up. Definitely, this kind of comes into, you want to do this influencer who's creating exposure for you, but I'm not talking about like asking for reviews or anything like that. You can ask for reviews, but there's services that'll give you reviews, and we don't want to engage in anything that's not on the up and up like that. Video content is like I said, everything when you scroll on these feeds are video based, in my opinion. The ones that I skip or I see people skip or we see in the data that are not engaged with are just text based or not moving elements. So come up with a way to find the movement there, and you'll be in much better shape. Again, it's the same thing. It's when the video, you want to be entertaining and not just show your products. I think, the thing I'm seeing a lot lately is the comparison of Red Bull. If you ever follow Red Bull, I encourage you to do that. That's an energy drink. They've been around for many years. You don't see a single product shot in their advertising or promotions. It's these people doing these wild and crazy stunts or sports. And, it brings that energy to it, and their logo's on there, sure, but they're not just putting up a can of an energy drink. And that's the difference. You don't want to do that with your products either. And that's where we're at there. Let's keep going. Advancements in data analytics is huge. We all know that Google changed last year in the middle of the summer to a new platform. The way that those metrics are recorded are completely different, but you still want to be able to look at something and know how your website is doing. You want to be able to track some performance and take some information from there and understand if you can improve, right? So the more things that you can track, the better. And just ensure that Google Analytics is installed on your website, because even if you can't read it now or you don't want to, you don't have the time, when you do find a partner or find someone you want to work with to do this work, the first thing they're going to do is look at your Google Analytics. And if it's non-existent, you're going to be in trouble. No matter what platform you're on, whether you're using Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, WordPress, whatever, there's a way to install Google Analytics very easily through their systems or dashboards. You don't need to do all of the madness that you think a programmer might need to do just to get baseline now. There are more advanced things you might think about as if you're a larger operation and you really need to know this stuff. But as a small business, the best thing is just make sure you get Google Analytics recording the traffic and data on your website. Content marketing is another trend that hasn't gone away. It keeps moving. You want to make sure that when you're in that space, you're making really solid articles, posts, videos, whatever that content is, to position yourself as a thought leader and build that trust again. A lot of this is about establishing trust, establishing that clarity, so that, you know, if someone comes to your website, they immediately know what you're about, what your goals are, and what they should engage with. You know, if they're a buyer or a visitor, or however that experience has to unfold in your mind, that's what you want to put forward. And you know, you got to relate your business to current trends. I think if you're doing content marketing, which is, you know, if I'm writing a blog post every month, it should be related to something current and with, you know, hand in hand with what your product offering is. So if there is a holiday, obviously holiday stuff is good, but, you know, we had the big game last weekend. You know, what alternatives could be found by using your product as a served at the game as a you know, snack, treat, meal, whatever it was, you know, or making more of a meal that's provided with your products, you know, before the game, for instance, to have a feast. I could see a good campaign, you know, how to make the best feast before the big game and include your products, right? That would be a content marketing angle that I think would be different and actually work for you in a couple different ways if it was written correctly. But you want to include video and photos and everything else that has to go with that. So there's quite a bit happening there. This focus on sustainability and transparency is big across not just agriculture, but every business now is working, you know, through some of these challenges. And environmental initiatives are big. Making sure that ethical sourcing is highlighted, and, you know, if you're working with that, I think it's important to highlight it. Make sure you're partnered with all the government agencies. You've got the logos on there. You're building, again, more credibility. You're building that vision of what these consumers are looking for, and these are the items here that I've listed. So it's important to make sure that your website has that information there as well. E-commerce, again, it's very easy to start selling online. It used to be security was a big concern, credit card use was a big concern, and now you've got products like Squarespace. If you're on Wix, if you're on, again, any of the Shopify, there's so many of these shopping cart things, PayPal, whatever it is, offers very secure, very easy integration into a website. The barrier is super low. If you've got a little bit of technical know-how, you could do this yourself, and you set it up and you're off to the races and selling products online. You don't need to have a lot of overhead. You can keep it very simple. A lot of this can be very daunting, but if you keep your product line simple and focus on the core products and then branch out as you learn and go, I think that's a very good posture to have as you move through the opportunity of selling online. There's a couple more things we'll talk about in a few minutes about that in detail. And then local SEO is important because we've all talked about regular SEO before. I'm sure you've at least heard of that. It's important to show up when someone searches for your brand name. It's important to show up if someone's looking for, you know, beef near me. So what is that? What is SEO when it comes to something like that? Making sure your address, your phone number, and the information on your website is consistent. And on your website, I've had some clients we've onboarded to clean up some of the things that they've brought us. And it's as simple as they don't have their address consistent on their website. So the local mapping and the things that the wide open searches, like whatever it is near me, just they don't show up for at all. And a couple little tweaks like that can fix that. And then local SEO, again, the maps come up pretty quickly at the top of the page. There's a lot of different opportunities. It's not just the search result that you're thinking of the headline and the subtitle there. There's other ways to be found on the Google search result page. So claiming that Google My Business listing and then having the local SEO best practices checked off your list is pretty important. We'll get into how to look at your website. Here are the steps to improve a website or to understand where you're at with your website. Websites are fun because they're always changing, always evolving. It's not like you can, you're building whatever it is, a barn, a house, or a car. You get it put together and you walk away and clap your hands and you're done. Websites are always evolving. They always need consistent maintenance and upkeep. So they often are the first impression that someone will have of you. If they're looking for your product, your location, something to do, whatever it is you offer, that website's most likely their first impression. So again, that usability is very important, but also, how it functions. Are they running into issues? Again, is it mobile optimized? Are they pinching and zooming on their phone as they're driving down the highway looking for a place to stop? That could be all barriers to your success. So taking a very good look at what that first impression is, step away from what you've seen your website probably hundreds of times. You know what it looks like, you think you know how it operates, but really step away from that, or have someone who's a friend who goes, hey, go to my website and tell me what you think about how easy it is to find a map or find our phone number. And that'll be eye-opening for you. There are also obviously tools that allow us to do this in the professional space, but sometimes asking dad to take a look at your website is a great way to understand the barriers that a different user set would have to using your website. And make sure that data is being recorded with Google Analytics or whatever tools that are available to you, so you can identify any kind of opportunity for improvement in the future. Usability is a big deal. It's got to be easy to navigate. It's got to be mobile optimized. And again, if the images are too big and they're always downloading and it makes it bloated, it's going to be really not fun for your consumer friends, and it's not going to be fun for Google, and you will not show up in those search results at all, no matter how hard you try. So optimizing images and the size and speed of your website is very important. Again, there's platforms, those, like I keep going back to like Wix, Squarespace, whatever. Those platforms are typically really robust and well done when it comes to speed and opportunity for you to do optimizations. If you're doing a website independently, hand coding it using WordPress on a managed or a hosted shared hosting server, that's where you can run into some challenges with speed. WordPress out of the box doesn't do a great job of optimizing images, and you got to watch out with that platform specifically. There are plugins to add to it that'll definitely help those things, but WordPress is certainly a much different animal than if you're using a product like Wix or Squarespace, for instance. Existing content should be refreshed, and it should be up to date, and it should be new. It's kind of, Google's always looking for signals that you are a vibrant farm or you're a vibrant operation. And updating that site is one of the ways it says, oh, they just updated this page, there's new content, they've added a blog post, this is something relevant, it's got all the right keywords, someone's searching for this, let's rank them better. So that's great. The only concern, I put a little check mark there, is to replace content is challenging. So maybe you're already ranking, you got to use some caution to understand. So it's very good that you have that data to understand, if I'm doing okay, what I want to do to not break what I've already got. And that's kind of a dance you have to work out. But if there's anything that is outdated or redundant that doesn't make sense, put that fresh, engaging content there and you'll be better off for it. But do be aware, if you've got a page that's really, instead of going to your homepage, you can see in Google Analytics, everybody's landing on this page about the best way to select meat when you're shopping at the farmer's market, and you change that or take it away, that's obviously going to be detrimental to your operation. So you don't want to do stuff like that. So you have to be able to make informed decisions, and that's where that data comes into play. Again, video, any kind of new content and adding infographics or enhanced engagement opportunities there, it's going to help in the long run. Keyword research is fun. There are great free tools out there. You can Google those. I can name a few at the end here too. I meant to have a resource library for you. I'll make sure when we send out the deck, that we have some good links for you. Because again, if you're an orchard, right? You're an apple orchard. Are people searching for apple orchard, or are they searching for apple picking? That's where Google Trends comes in. You can put both of those terms in there and see which one has more volume. And you'd select that, say it's apple orchard, you'd select that word and you'd write your content using that word over and over to create that relevance and really to make that work for you. And you stay away from the ones that are not as popular. Those are the decisions that you can make on the front end to alleviate Google from having to make those decisions on the back end later. And it just gives you a better positioning, right? So that's a great tip there. So do some keyword research and choose the more popular phrases. One of the challenges for me as someone who works with some brands is the words that are within their branding language are not necessarily what people are using to search for them. So you got to find the way to ride the line there and get the best of both worlds. But there's always a clear winner, typically in Google Trends, of where you want to focus your efforts on what you're writing or what you're bidding on or whatever. The keyword research is a pretty underused opportunity for most people with websites who don't pay attention to that. Beyond that, those are the ones. So you put those winning keywords in your meta tags, your headings, and your alt text. Those are the words that are behind the scenes, if you will, but are very important. So if you're writing a headline for your website, every website page should have, this is kind of nerdy, but one H1 tag. It's the heading tag of the page, the title, if you will. You want to front load that with a couple keywords. So if you're an apple orchard and you happen to be the best apple orchard, putting the best apple orchard is not bad. You definitely don't want to say, welcome to my apple orchard. It's the best apple orchard, and have the best way at the end or whatever, or my apple, you know what I mean? You want to front load with the keywords, avoid all the extra stuff if you can. And those main ones, you want to keep it to about, 50 to 60 characters for those headlines. And that'll be meaningful for Google and help to identify what your page should rank for. But the keyword stuff is pretty fun stuff. I enjoyed doing that work a lot. Because it's kind of that next level that many people kind of miss on. And again, sometimes we have organizations that got really lucky and wrote really great content with a really great keyword, and their page has a lot of history and authority, and that thing's going to keep ranking, and they're going to beat their competition on that. As well as if you're thinking about doing a new product, putting the location name of your product into the putting the location into your product name. I've had really great wins with having that happen, because the name of the product is a location, and they kind of go together, and you win over competitors that way. So that's just something to consider as an opportunity if you're going to do some kind of a new anything, right? We're looking at conversion optimization. This is gets a little nerdy too. If you're doing e-commerce, looking at your conversion funnel, what are people doing? Again, looking, with a friend or someone who's not really familiar with your website, as they go through and try to purchase something or do something on your site you want them to do, submit an event registration, for instance. It's easy to do. Does it say the call to action, say what you want them to do? Typically, it could be just click here. Click here is not a great call to action. I would change it to, if it was an event, register now. I want you to register now. And that psychologically is a better call to action than just click here. We try to avoid that as much as possible. And if you have a technology stack, you've got a partner or a team, definitely ask them to do some testing and let you know what is most effective on your website. It's really cool to know, first of all, and second of all, it can really be transformative to turning up the heat on some of your goals. Again, if you're trying to find those new restaurants, if you're trying to find the place to get your product into the store, understanding how your site operates could be really, really, really helpful. We'll get into some definitive technical and SEO tactics here. We talked keyword research a little bit. I love that part of this work. Optimizing on-page elements, the content, local again. There's a few trends here you're going to see over and over and over again, and we'll jump through into these now. All right, slow down. We're good. Keywords and phrases that your target. This is back to what I just kind of described. Looking at Google Trends, looking at some other tools that allow you to see what folks are, searching on. Search volume is important, and maybe, you think about, I do want to appear on searches for Christmas trees, but it's super competitive, but I think there's an opportunity for, Christmas wreaths are not as popular, right? So maybe you focus on that. There's trade-offs within your website. So you want to make sure you have a page for the trees, and then say, you know what, I've optimized that. I've done what I can. I think wreaths are another opportunity, and you start bringing people in that way, and they end up on your tree page. So there's things that can happen there. But these tools like Google Keyword Planner, that's through Google AdWords or Google Ads now. That's available. That's not necessarily accessible for a layman. SEMrush is a great tool, very complicated, very expensive. The same with Ahrefs. There is a free one. Oh yeah, right there, WordStream. That's what I recommend. If it's for free, you sign up, but it's a free sign up through Google or MSN or whatever your email provider is. And that'll give you, if you type it in, again, the Christmas tree example, Christmas trees, it'll give you back a few hundred keywords that are relevant, what their weights are, how often they're searched for, what they could cost if you're actually going to bid on them. But that's another great way to know which words should I include on my website. And also, just to be clear, I'm not talking about putting white text on a white background and burying those words on the website. That's old school. That's 20 years ago. That'll get you nowhere fast. Do not say that. I'm saying creating blog posts, videos that have titles that use those words embedded on your website, things like that. And again, Google Trends it's a great tool. On-page elements, this is some of the nerdy stuff, but your keywords definitely got to go front and center on the H1 tag. There should be only one per page. And then your H2, H3 tags, it's kind of like Google reads these in a way that like the index of a book, a listing of your page and what they're expecting to be reading about. So those are very informative to Google, and it helps you rank better when you have your keywords in them and things are organized in a fashion that makes sense. Because this is a very good concept. If it makes sense to you as a human, it makes sense to Google. They're working really hard to make that accurate. If it makes sense to a person, Google's going to find it relevant as well. So think about it as you're looking at a page. Does it have a hierarchy? Does it start with the most important stuff first, and then support that first area all the way through the rest of the page? There's aspects to, should it be short? Should it be a long form piece of content? How long should my blog be? There's really no right or wrong these days. You can follow all these trends, and there are definite, wrongs and there are definite rights. But if you're in the between, you're going to be better off than not doing anything at all, right? And so unfortunately that's an it depends kind of situation. How competitive your keyword is, you might have to do a lot of extra work versus something that's pretty specific to you and not really searched for a lot. You can rank for that very easily, very quickly. And I'm sure if you have a website, you've gotten spammy emails from these companies that want to, we can guarantee traffic to your website. First, number one search result on Google for whatever. And they really do cherry pick in that situation, really easy keywords that, so anybody could do that. So be aware of that. Don't get ripped off by those kind of things. And then the other thing is when you're building out a new page, that wreath page, make sure wreath is in your URL. So instead of, oh gosh, there's so many ways to to do this, but be aware that everything you're doing, whether it's the title of your, the way you're naming your images, not DSC123 when you download it out of your camera, rename the image to, Christmas wreath 2025. And then put that on a page that says Christmas wreaths, best Christmas wreaths in Connecticut. That's what I would name that page. And, all those signals work together. No one thing is going to be a silver bullet for you when it comes to SEO, but putting all of those things together, if they're consistent, will move the needle. Let's keep going here. High quality content. We've talked about what some of that looks like, addressing needs, interesting questions. You want to think about what makes your operation, your farm, your products valuable to people, how you can guide them and give them information about what your product, making your product even better, partnering with other farms in the area, gosh, if our honey went on that farm's, fruit, oh my, it's a match made in heaven, and you guys work together and come up with a campaign, and then put natural relevant keywords together naturally. Again, that kind of just happens over time, but it gives you value and readability. Local SEO, we kind of talked about oops, I forgot a capital B there. This is super important. Your business should be listed. We'll get to backlinks at number 6 there, but your business name, your address, your phone number, and the URL that you use to link to your website should be the same always and everywhere. On your own website, on the Connecticut Grown website, they've got a directory, and you're going to link to your website. That URL, that link should always be the same. If you've got a front business phone number on one website, and you've got your direct line on the other website, and maybe there's a phone to the barn on another website, it gets confusing for Google, and they don't know which one is accurate and which one to surface as the truth. Google My Business, claim that business listing, and make sure that phone number is locked in with everything else. It's so important, especially if you're, I mean, I don't see this a lot, but I've seen it enough where someone will claim your listing if you haven't already claimed it, and change it and monkey around with it. And it's not truthful. It's not you. And it can really, make it difficult for you to capture business if they think that you called and it was a day where you had something going on. We don't have a lot of staff sometimes, and you've closed early, and they'll mark it down as they're closed. And you're like, no, we're not closed. So if you own that listing, they cannot do that as easily. So that's just something to be preventative, to be a better business practice, but it impacts your website as well. And then local keywords and geographic modifiers. Again, best honey in Connecticut, best Eastern Connecticut honey. Locally grown is good, but it's used across the country. So Connecticut's best honey, things that are more specific, you will find the right audience, I think, in a more effective way. All right. Optimize for mobile. We talked about that. There is a Google tool for that. If you just do Google search for Google mobile or Google website mobile test, they'll check it out for you too and make sure that it's meeting their criteria. It's very useful. There are some things about it that are not great. Like it'll tell you'll get reports every week, and it'll say, hey, everything's great. But once in a while it'll be like, oh, your text is too close together. And that's a challenge. There's always something. Don't have a freak out over if they tell you something that previously was fine, and then all of a sudden it's changed and it's not fine. A grain of salt sometimes, but in general, this is a great tool to know how your website does mobilely. The backlink thing is another really missing piece in a lot of strategies for online websites. You have Connecticut Grown, you've got local chambers of commerce, you've got other associations that you may be part of, whether it's a national level, if you're doing maple syrup, National Maple Syrup Association, whatever those are. Work to get all of those associations, those opportunities to link to your website, put on those sites. Local schools and colleges, if you can partner with them in some way, if you're providing, I'll go with honey again. If you're going to provide honey to the school, ask them to get a link on your website from their students. Anything with a .edu domain, super powerful. .org historically has been powerful, but if they've got an older website, meaning the date that it was registered is older, they have more authority and they can pass that authority to you if you're a rather new business. You want to get linked to from as many places as you can, and definitely make sure your owned assets, your Facebook page, your Twitter page, those all have links to your website. Email signatures, you should have an email signature on your email that links back to your farm or your operation. Everywhere that you can do that, it's easier to share. You know, if someone sends me an email, I'm going to have your website link in the footer, or in that thread, right? So there's a lot of things happening there, and backlinks are something you can be building up. You can identify other websites or blogs. This is legwork, but you contact them and say, hey, I've got a great article about how whatever it is, right? My honey was awarded, I won the state fair for 3 years in a row. I've got a great article about that. And they, ask for that link, want to buy the best honey in Connecticut? Here it is. And oh my gosh, if they link you as the best honey in Connecticut to your website, that's the holy grail there. Get that a couple times over, and you're going to really start ranking really well for some of that stuff. You don't want to do anything spammy or manipulative. There are companies that do this. They have teams of individuals, overseas, who will just put links on random horrible websites, or they've taken over people's websites in illegal ways and put links there. You don't want to engage in that kind of activity, but certainly any city, state government websites and the educational stuff is pretty cool. I would recommend partnering with any, if you've got a brewery nearby and you're providing them with any kind of products, any kind of popular website that's local or regional, and getting linked to and from them. Hotels come up with a package, a farm tour package. And if they're, Hilton.com links to you, that's a huge win. They're passing off that credibility that your website is really should be highly ranked, and that's how that works. In this one, images and metadata, again, this is kind of nerdy stuff, but when you're doing the image naming, again, not dsc123.jpg, best beef Eastern Connecticut, best beef Preston, wherever you're living, whatever you got going on there, those. And then if you're doing Google image searches, you're much more likely to show up for those kind of searches. Videos are also, I just can't say enough about video content and managing that. I'm not an expert on that. We have video people, we have creatives who do that work. But I think anecdotally, you've seen, if you're scrolling through your Facebook or your Instagram feeds, how much video there is. Or if you haven't seen it, take a next scroll next time you're looking through and kind of start counting how many things actually are moving in video based versus image based. And this is going back to using Google Analytics. Google Search Console, oh my gosh, totally free. If you're not using this, get on there like yesterday. Searchconsole.google.com, I think, or just Google Search Console. This allows you to put your domain name in, as long as you've got a Google verified website, which you can do 6 different ways. I'm happy to help you do that. If you want to shoot me an email and you can't do it, this will tell you what people are searching for and where your website lands in their search results. So, is that best honey in Connecticut keyword ranking for me? Am I just landing anywhere on Google? Oh, I'm in the 63rd position. How do I move up? And it just gives you a really good idea of where you're at. And it's visibility into a system you otherwise don't have visibility into. How you rank on Google, this is the key to that. So if someone's asking you about that, absolutely go down that road. Sorry, got me excited. I really do like that product. It's free, as long as you have a Google account. This one, I think my colleagues have talked about before in other sessions. So I'll kind of breeze through this as quickly as I can. Obviously, social media's got a lot going for it. We want to be engaged on there. Again, if you've got video, get it on YouTube. The second most used search engine in the world it's Google is first, YouTube is second. More and more people are looking for, where should I travel, getting inspiration, getting ideas about what to eat, what to buy, what to put on the table from YouTube. And that platform it's massive. It's still untapped. I think there's so much more potential there. So if you have the opportunity, you can do video, get your stuff on YouTube. And not only that, you put your videos on YouTube and then you put them on, it gives you the embed code and some things to put on your website. pretty easily. It's not going to drive up so that way you're not driving up the cost of your bandwidth. Some hosting services, charge by the bandwidth that your website serves. So a good way to save on that is to use YouTube hosting. It's free for your video, and also Google Analytics. When it sees the video on your website, tied to your Google profile, tied to your YouTube page, it all works together to make you more visible. Embedded social media feeds kind of goes with the social sharing budget. There's opportunities on platform per platform to put what you're posting on social into your website. I'm okay with this. I'm not super hot on it. It's kind of old school. It is what it is. I think if you go on social media for a reason, you're there for that reason. You're not going to necessarily go to your website for that reason. And we're a little over time. I got quite a bit more to go here, so I'm going to breeze through this. The sharing buttons we know about. You want to make sure you can share your stuff. Anybody that gives you a great review has a great time, or posts, they go to your farm, they've done the tour, they've checked out the llamas, and they post it on Instagram with the hashtag, and you see that, take that and put it on your own site or reshare it as your own social proof. Really good stuff to do with that. The widgets and stuff, not hot on that, but it's doable. Again, some of this is very easy to do. It depends on your platform. Other things are very complicated, and such as the social media login integration. If you've got e-commerce happening, I would definitely look at this and see if it's offered. It makes it really easy to go through a purchase situation, right? If I can just tap once in Google or Facebook or whatever's already got all my information, goes into that form field, fills it out, and then you're on your way with a very friction-free and seamless purchasing opportunity. So something to consider. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see a lot of people though just logging into a website just because it has a social media integration. In my previous life, I was in travel, and TripAdvisor partnered with Facebook, and the only way you could log into TripAdvisor for a little while was to use your Facebook login, and there was really no point to it. So it's there, but it's not something, unless you're really trying to turn a dial on a big operation, that makes sense for you. And events, again, those events on Facebook, awesome for things to do near me searches. Really, what is it? The other one, Eventbrite. If you're, doing any kind of happening on your property, make sure you put a Facebook event listing up. It just makes sense. It's free, it's easy. Assuming you've got a Facebook page for your business, and go from there. Really, really good stuff there. Best practices for e-commerce. Right here, these are the top ones. We're going to do 5. The descriptions and imagery. I so much information in these shopping carts. It'll just be the title of the element and a price. And does that really move the needle sometimes? When it might be fine if somebody knows exactly what they want, but if you're shopping and you're trying to compare your product versus one at the store versus another one in another state or something, you have an opportunity to make an impact. So be as detailed and accurate with descriptions as you can. Use those high quality images. I know that, I think a lot of people are seeing this now and understand what I'm saying. This has always been a kind of a challenge though, is we've got a product that you're selling and it's something you did on your cell phone at 8 o'clock at night out in the field, and no, it's too dark. It doesn't work. You want to get some really nice imagery. It really does make a big difference to have that imagery. Well done. It's definitely worth the, if you're doing a lot of volume or high cost things, you definitely want to pay a little bit to get a photographer who knows what they're doing to give you the assets to make you look more professional. Online ordering and payment processing, again, those are super easy to do now. Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, whatever it is, has e-commerce built right into it. You got to pay a little more, but you turn it on and it's done. Security is not an issue. Managing that data is not an issue. It's all within that ecosystem. Very, very awesome. They take a little bit of money out of your pocket with the fees, but at the end of the day, I think it's worthwhile to have that revenue coming in. You got to at least be on the shelf. And then we've all seen it, if you go into farmers markets as well, having those tools, they work on your website, but there's that QR code that they can scan or tap on the device, and they pay mobilely as well. So you can use it for your website. You can use the same platform for your visits to the farmers markets, or if you're doing fairs and in big events, there's so many opportunities to do that. So it makes total sense. It's very easy to do now. Make sure you keep up on the basics of being we might be focused on growing our crops and not business people, but we do have to work to manage our business correctly. Setting up alerts is a great way to do that. Most of these systems have alerts for if your inventory gets low, you don't want to be selling things online that you can't supply or provide. I used to do a cottage industry, my own little hobby, selling stuff that I would make. And all it would take for me to have a great experience was to email someone and say, hey, thanks for your order. I'm sending this out tomorrow. And I'd send them the order the next day, let them know I sent the order. I wasn't doing tracking or anything like that. And I'd slip a little extra tchotchke or gift into the package to make them smile when they opened it. And I, always had a good experience. It's when I was really busy and I didn't have time to send those emails that things were like, people are like, where's my order? Did you even say, and there's so many ways that you can streamline this process. They can do these kind of communications for you. Don't skip those steps when you're setting up your shopping carts. You want to make sure that they're sending out those communications and the customer support. So you set those expectations and they know, you're doing what you need to be doing. They provided with what they purchased from you. Because then you'll end up with negative reviews or, that word of mouth piece comes into play there too. So important stuff. Marketing and promotion. If you're into doing discounts and promotions, that's great. It really depends on where you're at in your business. Most of these platforms offer that, but just don't forget about them. Early bird stuff is usually good for me. I like to see that kind of work happening in our industry, to get early signups, commitments to buy before, you get into season when it's crazy, and we all know how that works. Email marketing is we didn't talk about that at all, but to drive traffic to your site, all these different ways to promote driving traffic. Really everything we've been talking about tonight has been working together to be comprehensive and to help your business succeed in the website space, at least, right? Finally, coming around the end of the night here. Traffic and analytics and how you measure those key performance indicators is what a KPI is. So what matters, So if you're on a website, your visits, how many visitors you get, and where those visitors are coming from. In my opinion, these are the top three there. If you know how many visits you get a day, how many of those are actually unique, if you've got a laptop, every time you open it up, your homepage is sent to your farm website. Yeah, you're going to get the same visitors every day. You want to know who's unique and where they're finding, whether it's organic traffic, paid traffic, email referrals, links from other websites. That's all through Google Analytics, and that'll tell you that. We go with user engagement. That's how people are using your site. Is your site valuable? Are you giving them good information? It used to be called bounce rate, was the big one for Google Analytics Universal. Back years ago, last year in the summer, Google flipped the script. It's literally the inverse. So engagement rate. So bounce rate was when you come to a website, land your homepage, I look at the Steadfast Farms website and I leave. I don't do anything else. Whether it was the pictures or the whatever, I couldn't figure out how to do whatever. I just didn't stay. I didn't go anywhere else. That's a bounce. And that's an indicator that your website might have not be optimized to engage someone. Sometimes we optimize websites so much they land on a page, they get all the information they need on one page and they leave. And you have to understand that might be the point or a success. But anyway, engagement rate's the inverse. So that's someone who sticks around and stays on your page for 10 seconds, scrolls to the bottom, or clicks a couple links. There's a couple different variations of what is actually truly measured in Google Analytics as an engagement. But so that's an important element to know about your website and work to improve that. If you notice your engagement rate is super low, say 70%, 30% engagement rate, you want to do more to get that up to, 50 or so. Average session duration, how long someone stays on your site. Obviously, if you don't have much to say, they're going to come in, look at your phone number, click and go. Maybe that's a win for you. But if you really want to build a brand, to build your business up, you want to have them spending some time on your site so you understand that they're really getting to know you, what you're offering on your website, and to ultimately purchase your products. And then pages per session is good to know. Are they only going to one or two pages? There's arguments to be made on both sides of these fences always. So it's hard for me to say what's right and what's wrong, but these are the things that you should know about your website So you can gauge whether or not that's an improvement as you move forward, throughout the years, or if things have been slipping and you need to do some adjustments. Conversion metrics, if you are selling on e-commerce, even if you're not selling on the e-commerce platforms, but you're signing up for your newsletters, you're signing up for events and stuff, you want to know what those goals are before you go into it and how many are actually, beans we can drop in that bucket where I've got 50 people signed up for my this weekend's farm tour, right? You want to know that whatever effort I put into it has paid off. And the only way you can do that is for setting up these conversion metrics. So, if I got 100 visitors and only 5 of them signed up, that means I need to get 1,000 visitors to get to my 50. And understanding those metrics and what you actually need to do, then you can say, well, if I need 1,000 visitors to my website, I need to spend some money on, cost per click advertising, or get some signs put up, or actually activate my, my listing on Connecticut Grown website to let people know that that's there. And you can see how those things are impactful to drive that conversion rate up. And that's a very much an e-commerce metric, right? Organic search traffic, again, that's the Google search console is going to tell you a lot of information there of how you're performing. I definitely would pay attention to that. And within there, it does give you the keyword information, which is fantastic. What you're ranking for, what you're not ranking for, and how those things have changed over time. Content performance. So your most visited pages, if you realize, again, that Christmas tree idea, if you're a Christmas tree farm, and you've got everybody visiting the same page, that one's doing great, but you want to drive more traffic to the wreath page and sell more wreaths because those have a better margin for you. What do you have to do to change those parameters, right? So you know what top landing pages are. Typically, it's your homepage. If you look at Google Analytics, it's like a slash with nothing after it. And how pages are engaged with. Some pages might get a lot of scroll. If you put a video, for instance, way up high on a page, people are going to come in, watch the video, might leave, and don't scroll at all, and that kind of like doesn't look good on metrics. So, putting a video a little lower in the page will really change how your page is engaged with, or that information is consumed. So there's a lot of things to consider as you're doing that. And this is huge, as typically you're not changing your location, people are coming to you. You want to know where they are. Google Analytics will show you within in most cases. I mean, it's a little fuzzy now with privacy and the opportunity to use a VPN, for instance, or to block this information. But they can, in general, you'll be able to know most of my traffic is coming from Hartford County, or, New London, or wherever it is. And then, if again, device and browser usage, I like to know specifically what my difference is between mobile users and desktop users. Mostly, I would say, if you're in an office, you're doing procurement, you're looking to buy wholesale products or find a new partner, you're in an office during the day and you're going to use your desktop. If you're in a consumer space where, you've got a billboard on the highway for your orchard, people drive by that, and then you start seeing, from New Haven all the time, I get, hits from an iPhone. Then that tells you a couple of things. Most of my traffic consumers are on their phones, and if it's coming from the same kind of a location, maybe my billboard's working. There's other ways to really drive that home technically, but there's some inferences you can make about how your website performs based on the user demographics, which is really fun stuff. So that's all I had. I'm over. I've done about an hour and 6 minutes, and we're over. We started a little late because of the invite situation, but I think we're good. I talked fast. I probably said a lot of ums. I'm sorry. I a lot. I'm very hoarse. I'm probably getting sick, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm going to answer any questions and have a dialogue with anyone at this point.
All right, thanks, Greg. We do have a couple questions that came in through the course of your chat. One of the first ones was, Greg, can you talk about the ideal sizing on images for optimizing on websites?
Sure. I have colleagues in the web industry who have different opinions. My opinion is, if Google's testing, there's GT metrics, there's like 3 or 4, and I use Google a lot. I use Google and 2 other ones, GT metrics or something like that. They come up when you Google website speed test, right? And that might even be the name of the site. Google was going to be really strict, very focused. The other ones are a little looser, but if you can score well with all those, you're fine. Ultimately, I like to use any images on a website. So you can have an image that's as big as your desk, and you upload that. And some tools will downsize that and make it smaller. Other ones will just like, here you go, and serve that up. And that's really poor use of bandwidth, and it makes your site slow and all that. So, most laptops, browsers, and stuff are what, 1440 or 1080, right? 1080 by whatever it is on the TV. So I try to look at it reasonably and say, if my screen is only this wide, I don't need an image that's any bigger than that ever. So I size my images down to, if it's a big, your website platform should dictate how big that image should be. So if you're saying I've got a full screen and I know that my screen, the maximum width I can do is 1900 pixels wide, my image should be 1900 pixels by whatever wide. And then you save it and optimize it using Photoshop or an online tool. There's plenty of those that'll optimize an image and make it a smaller JPEG. So there's the dimensionally, you want to have it, it doesn't need to be too big. And if you want to make it bigger, and because these platforms size them, no problem. As long as so that's dimensionally, but as long as the file size is palatable, I personally would never upload an image to a website that was over 250 to 300 kilobytes, KB. That's less than half a megabyte. Most, like if I'm looking at a website, it's a headshot of like myself or a colleague, and it's a small photo that's 300 by 300 pixels wide. So a square 300 by 300 pixels, that should probably be about 50 to 75K in size. Because I've optimized it and saved it for web. That same picture, if I took it right out of my camera, that 300 by 300 at and sorry, screens can only show us, well, see, this is where we get into technological advances, right? Screens used to only display 72 dots per inch. Now with 4K and 5K TVs and all this, they can cram a lot more information in there. So yeah, it's such a variable thing, but in general, just keep the file size below 300K and you'll be fine file size wise, and then use a dimension that works for your site and test it on a couple different devices. Ultimately, if it's fuzzy and doesn't look good, yeah, you gotta use a little bit more horsepower there.
All right. All right. All right. Next question. Are there any A/B testing or heat map tools available for free?
Yes. Hotjar is one we use. There's a free account, comes with that. It gives you, I think it's 500 visits or 1,000 visits a month for free. There's another one I just found that I like even better. I don't remember the name of it, but Hotjar is the first one that comes to mind. They've been around for a long time, and I've enjoyed. It's fun to see how people use your site. One of the challenges is again, with Hotjar, for instance, if you've got a navigation that has a hamburger menu in the top corner, it's just going to be bright red, and you're not going to see a lot of detail. So if you have a horizontal navigation, it's great for that. It's really good for showing you down a page where the activity is. But if you've got that hamburger navigation, sometimes it really messes things up. It doesn't really give you valuable information. So it's a consideration. So a mobile site might not be as well represented as a desktop version of that site, right? But Hotjar is pretty much where it's at.
All right. Thanks, Greg. And the last one I have on my list from our chat was, is there any way to stop the dozens of quote, my Google verify or quote, my business verified, et cetera, that I get each day? Is there a way to write the phone number so a human can read it, but the bots can't pick it up?
What is that?
I think, Tom, was this your question? Feel free
Yeah,
to
it is. I'll
elaborate on
explain
it.
it. So, the spam phone calls, my business verified, this is Google verified. I mean, a dozen a day relentlessly. And the
Wow.
problem is, so I can't let my phone's spam detection pick it up because it sends it straight to voicemail, and then I'm stuck deleting the voicemail. So I have to answer the call. right? And I
Oh.
swear to God, it's a dozen a day, and it's actually interfering with my business because by the time I get real customers calling, I'm pissed off and annoyed, right? Is there anything we can do about that? It's like literally the biggest web problem I have right now.
Phone call spam. Yeah. Um, there's got to be products for that. Um, let me look around and see what I can find. I know that we do a lot with email spam and message spam like that, but the phone thing is certainly different. So in some cases like that, it's you may have gotten onto a list or into a database somewhere, and there might be a tool that would scrub that from those like people have LifeLock or whatever for their credit cards and whatnot. But I think there's business tools to get you out of those pools of data. But I'll look at that. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. But I know that we used to not put email addresses on websites. I think some of the tools, the actual like Squarespace and stuff, if we do use an email address, it changes it so it's not not trackable, but not spammable as easily, right? But yeah, the phone thing that's a
I
pain.
would say probably 3/4 or more of the Facebook messages, emails, phone calls I get are from scammers or spammers every single day.
Yeah. We get that. I get a lot of those too. But that one's interesting.
I captured that as a to-do for us to follow up on. I think one of our web developers might have some good tools on some of those things. I've heard him speak about them before,
Yeah.
so we can bring that up to him. All right, those are the questions I had on my list. Anybody else, any questions for Greg before we call it a night?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, pretty high level stuff, but we've got a lot of good information. If you have any questions, our information's there.
All right. Thank you everybody for coming. We've really enjoyed having this chat with you. Amanda and gang will have the deck and the video in the near future for y'all to be able to access. And yeah, really appreciate your time, Greg. And thanks everybody for joining.
Sure.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Have a good night.
Goodbye.